Welcome to the Marking Assistant. To use this tool, you will need two files, template and populate. If you go ahead and open the template file, you'll see what's effectively a blank template. The points to note here are the reg number, assignment, module code, the criteria, the fact that there's a series of tick boxes on the left hand side, some grades, some weightings, and the white box to the right hand side, which contains an area where the feedback will be generated. A grade is entered against the criteria on the left hand side. This results in text being generated into the white box on the right hand side, giving the student their feedback. By selecting the second worksheet, you can see there's a list of criteria along with a series of grades, fail, thirds, 2-2, 2-1, etc. This is where the feedback will be entered by the academic. On the third worksheet, for convenience only, is a loose definition of the degree grades which will be applied. Remember, at this time, this template has not been populated, it is simply blank. I will now go ahead and open a partially populated one. Note on the left hand side we now have a list of criteria. These criteria were found using a survey conducted by Owen Daines. The criteria here include presentation of document, structure and storyline, grammar and spelling, use of visuals and code, comprehension of problem, proposed solution, success and criteria, evidence of original thought, referencing and citation, and finally reflection. This list of criteria is intended for use only by way of example. The marker is free to choose whichever marking criteria they wish. Note the template initially defaults to the fail category. So, now moving on to the second worksheet. Here, each grading criteria has some feedback associated with the grade alongside them. For example, against the grading criteria comprehension of problem, for a fail I have put in the text, no evidence to suggest the student has understood the problem or the context in which it lies. The text entered into this worksheet will be subject specific. The example here took me around 20 minutes to write. Once the template has been prepared with the default text, the true advantage of this scheme becomes apparent. Now, checking the grade against the criteria, the text will automatically appear in the white box on the right hand side. Remember, this text is default text. The tool was never intended to be a replacement for a marker's expert opinion. It was simply designed to provide a baseline for the repetitive parts of marking upon which the marker can augment and provide meaningful feedback as well. As the marking progresses, it is not only possible to modify the default text in the white box on the right hand side, but also to augment it if there's something else that you wish to say to the student which might be different from the default case. Once this is done, simply pressing the refresh button will populate the white box with the new text. Notice all the 10 weightings are evenly spread at 10%. This does not necessarily have to be the case, and you are free to apply different weightings to different criteria as you see fit. Remember, at the moment this document is just the template. You'll notice it has no reg number, assignment, module number, etc. across the top bar. What needs to be done now is to create one of these files for each student being marked on the course. Remember to save your template. You can close the template or leave it open, it makes no difference. Now return back to your install directory, simply the place where you put the two files, and open up the spreadsheet called Populate. Looking to the far left of the document, we see a column with student reg against it. It is possible to type in student registration numbers or you can cut and paste them from an existing spreadsheet. In the example here, I'm just going to type in 4 student reg numbers and use them to generate individual feedback documents. Having done this, I then press the Generate Assignment Marking Forms button. This immediately gives me an error because I haven't defined the save directory. The software requires several pieces of information. It needs to know the path to the template we created a few moments ago. It needs to know the save directory, the module code, and the name of the assignment. I then enter the module code, the name of the assignment, and finally I point to where the template is. Now recall from a few minutes ago that we created a default template. This is the file that we need to point to, and this will form the basis of all student feedback forms. Once I press Generate Assignment Marking Forms, there's a short pause followed by a box indicating that the forms have been created. If I browse back to my root directory, I find that the 4 reg numbers I supplied in the populate template have now resulted in 4 Excel spreadsheets being created with the unique registration numbers attached to them. I am now in a position to begin marking. The example here used 4 student reg numbers, but it's equally as possible to use 3, 400 depending on the size of the cohort. The fruits of my labour now become apparent. I press the associated check buttons, press the refresh button, and examine the feedback I have generated in the white box on the right hand side. I am then free to quickly and easily modify the text which has been automatically generated. Once satisfied with the marking process, I press the Update button. This will automatically generate a Word output document with the student's reg number and all of the text which I generated plus the individual marking criteria. Pressing the Update button also updates the populate spreadsheet. In the list against the student reg numbers appears their grades. This column can simply be cut and pasted into another spreadsheet and delivered to the school office. The marker now has expediency, and the student now has verbatim feedback and accountability.